Yeah, there you
Where did we get to on that?
The
Oh,
police
right.
dog was running after them. David said fetch.
And they're in
Went
the
after
nick
Bernard.
now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see him. Not a lot I could do other than give him some money and all the rest of it. Have you ever heard of the Bird, Ronnie Bird?
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Ronnie Bird goes up to see him. And on his way up there, right, he sees this woman coming out the jewellers and putting her jewel box in her boot of her car. Fuck me, that's handy. So she drove up the road, parked, he's gone, always carried a stick with him, had her boot open and fucked off with her jewel box. So into the nicky he goes. He said to David, you won't fucking believe this, I've really fucking had it off coming up here. Told David, and David said, look, because he was visiting one after the other.
Yeah.
Said, you've got to give us a ring or something like that, and then, you know, you've got to hand the jewellery up and we get some bail. He went, oh, fuck me, Dave, that's a bit of an ask. But anyway, he done it. So he goes back out, gets one of the rings, then he visits Blomfield, right? And he said to Blomfield, yeah, Blomfield's quite in his mouth. They had their visit and off he's gone, and then he see Brian Harrison and off he goes. So he goes back and it's all in the newspaper. Gang steal woman's jewels from the back of her car.
Mm-hmm.
Blomfield's gone out and said, look, I want to speak to the copper in charge. Well, he thought he was going to blow the whistle on all of it, you know what I mean? What they was doing up there, because they had nothing to say to him. So he's come in, he said, I know you fuckers are fucking tricky, all you fuckers from the smoke, right? He said, well, no need to be like that. He said, right, all I want, right, is a bit of bow for all of us. He said, you would never get fucking bow here. He said, because I know the fucking magistrate. You know how they talk up there. Oh, he said, well then I can't fucking help you. He said, what do you mean you're going to fucking help me? He said, well, you know those jewels what were nicked out of the car? Yeah? He said, how would you like to get them all back? He said, what the fuck are you talking about? He said, look, to show good faith, right, he said, here's one of her rings. So the copper now is fucking speechless, right? He's absolutely fucking speechless. He said, now I've showed good faith here, right? He said, you fuckers, you're behind a great big fucking wall here and you're going to give me my fucking jewels back for my, you know, what's it all fucking coming to, you know, sort of thing. Anyway, so, because the Bird is booked in under a different name and everything, he wouldn't go in.
Yeah.
So with that, right, he said, as you give us some bail, right, all of us, right, you know, I'll tell you where you can pick your gear up from. He said, oh no. He said, well, bit of faith, I'll give you a fucking ring anyway. Right? So when they go to the court, the magistrate's court, he said to the magistrates, we've done all our inquiries and we don't mind them having, well, the magistrate was fucking gobsmacked. 1 minute, he said, you can let them out, right? So as they walked out, and he said, see that waste paper basket over there, it's in there, right? All right? Now, during this, that's the gospel fucking truth. Look it up.
Yeah, fantastic.
Look it up.
That's brilliant.
No, you try and tell someone that.
Yeah. That's hilarious. That's really funny. So, you mentioned on the phone the other day that the Colenso. I said about going to the Natural History Museum, and they have a file, several files about the robberies and just about the diamond, and they talk about an attempted raid on it, and you mentioned that you think that was David.
I think that was David.
Yeah.
That's David's MO.
Yeah.
Do a window and just see how quick they're off.
Yeah. Because in the newspaper article, there's a ladder and there's a bunch of people. It's all reenacted. It says reenacted, but you reckon he just?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely a David, because before they filled that top in, that's how they was going to do it. They was going to come down the what's his name, do something with the fire door so they couldn't get in, and be away.
Right.
Yeah. Because there's hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of gear.
Yeah, I don't think they're in there now. I think they're all.
I don't know what
they're all copies now, because of that.
No, I think it's all right.
I don't think now. I think they were.
Yeah.
But I think now there's no. I think so. Can you remember much about David's mum, Dolly,
Yeah.
sort of determination to see her son?
Well, she doorstepped people, didn't she? Who was it she doorstepped? Was it the Home Secretary or something, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't give a fuck, did she? My son's innocent, and you're fucking keeping... And she believed it as well.
Yeah.
My son wouldn't lie to me and all that shit, Did you hear about when she come up into his house and he's actually got a fucking pond in the middle of the room? Gone up there, he said, I'm very busy at the moment. Yeah. And there it is. Fucking fountain, frogs. Right? Bags and bags of fucking earth he's got up there. And he's got a pond. And when she's come up, she's gone balmy. And as it was there, it went. Frogs, I think he had some fish in it as well. And they used to row about, what's that program where you have so many letters and...
Oh, countdown.
Countdown. She said it is that. And they'd fucking argue. And it wasn't. Oh, I've got that one right. 4 3s, 21. Yeah. And as it come up, she said, oh, yeah, I told you I'd get that right. Look, she got it off the... He said, no, you hadn't. Yeah, and they'd have a terrible row in the morning, and she'd come up and say, your tea's ready, right? And he'd slink down there and have his tea, right? Honestly, like fucking children they were. But didn't you find that strange? He didn't want to go with his mum in the cemetery.
Yeah. Was that possible then, or?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. A bit conventional for David, though.
Probably. After he always said he'd come back and visit me, he fucking hasn't yet. I keep asking him to see if he can sort out the 6 numbers once a week for me.
I remember when Dolly died, we were outside the church, and he said that we were having a conversation, and said that apparently when John Lennon died, George Harrison and Ringo Starr were at the funeral, and they said if only there was a sign that he was all right. And apparently a dove flew past or something, and they sort of felt this was similar. So I don't know. Were you at Dolly's funeral? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
And
I can't remember yesterday, tell you that.
and we were sitting there doing the whole Catholic bit, and a beetle crawled across the altar. We could all see, in front of us all. We could all see it, and everyone sort of stopped to look at it. And David shouted out, "It's John Lennon!" No one else got it apart from me. Yeah.
Back a day.
Did you remember meeting Sandy at all?
Yeah.
What was her second name? Do you know her second name? No.
It was Portuguese. She was married to a Portuguese. And the story with Sandy is that her husband had left her, right? And he used to shag her for about 2 minutes, right? And when David come on, and he got down to her with his tongue, right, a dirty little fucker, right? She never experienced anything like it in her life.
Right.
And she said, what have I been missing? And, it was a match made in heaven. Did you hear about the watches?
I know he got off for the watches on a technicality. Yeah.
How that was done, he was coming past the place and he said, I meant to have done that a while ago, and Sandy was with him.
Right.
And he got in there and done it, and about fucking 5,000 watches it was, and he had them in the next garden, not his garden. Yeah, but it was a technicality. It was, yeah.
Yeah, there's a letter that he wrote that I don't know who it's to.
Ain't there none of it in there?
Some of it is, but there's boxes and boxes
like,
of stuff.
What is in there? What I can
So,
tell you about.
So the boxes, lots of boxes are letters to various people, and then some of them are letters to people where he describes something he had done, like the court case of getting off of those watches, and then relating that to what's happening now in politics or, but those were there were 3 folders, and 2 of them are just letters, and then that one is a kind of autobiographical.
Am I in it?
There's a little mention, not about meeting you at Hammersmith actually, and then also about
Oh, is that how you remembered how we met?
yeah, and then there's a bit about taking some letters somewhere, and you advising him not to do it, about going into Scotland Yard with some letters.
Fucking hell! That's come back to me. So he said, will you take me up there? I said, look, David, I don't mind taking you anywhere, and I'd do anything for you, So he said, well, if he comes down, I'm going to do him with this. I said, oh, that's fucking handy, and I'm outside, and I'm part of it.
Yeah.
I said, you don't have to do that. We know he's a wanker.
Who was that? Newman. Yeah.
I forgot all about going up there. I took him to loads of places,
Yeah.
No, but he would get that bee in his bonnet, and you couldn't say no to David. You had to go along with it and talk him out of it as you was going along with it.
Right.
Else you'd have got yourself into all terrible, terrible trouble.
Yeah.
He had books on fucking bombs and fuck knows what at one time.
I didn't know.
Oh, fuck. If you've done this and you've done that, He said there's things better than Weed Killer and all the fucking rest of it you can make up. You just got to get the formula right.
Yeah.
And I said, David, it's not the people you want to do harm to, it's the people who are there who you don't want to do harm to.
Yeah.
And then 9 times out of 10, it's always those poor fuckers who get hurt and they get away with it. And
Yeah.
you're right. You could talk David out of it,
Yeah.
but he had some fucking bad thoughts, he did.
Was he always, because my transition to knowing David was as a kid and being entertaining and educational, and then as I got older, some of it turned quite dark and some of the anti-Semitic stuff and but it was with real anger and.
I don't know. I think it's because he knew he had Jewish in him.
Yeah.
You do know that, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Nanny Isaac.
Yeah. And he knows that my forebearers are Jewish.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, listen, you don't have to have a big fucking nose, right? And you don't get your Jewishness from your fucking dad. You get it from your mother, right? And is your mother Jewish? Right? And I said, well, then you're not fucking Jewish, David. That's because that's where you...
Yeah.
It's not your dad.
Yeah.
The Jewish saying is, you always know who your mother is, but you don't know who your father is. Is that right?
Right, yeah.
And I don't know why he had terrible he had a thing about the Palestinians, and I said, David, they're fucking terrible people. They really are. And I said, what you got to look upon it this way, is the Jewish race have only known persecution for 5,000 years. I said, the Palestinians have only known persecution since 1947. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah? And it's not persecution. They only wanted a bit of what they thought was theirs. Yeah? And they've turned a desert into an oasis. The place would still be a fucking desert. The place would still be a desert. Do you agree with me or not?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What do the Palestinians... We've had this with David anyway. He's probably turning in that fucking box now. And I used to say to him, you can't fucking trust the Jew, right? David, if you had lots of money, who would you have look after your money? And he smiled and he said, well, you'd have a Jew, wouldn't you? They know how to fucking look after them. It'd be like it was theirs, they'd look after it. Right? And so, and I used to say, why is this okay there, but no, not okay there? He said, we'll leave it at that. But he got on with your missus, didn't she?
Yeah, very much so, yeah. Although, he didn't come to our wedding. That was his bit of, I'll fucking show you. Yeah.
You know what David's like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I just wonder where the because I really loved him a lot and was really grateful for knowing him but some of the hatred and
it was pure hatred.
Yeah.
But he had hatred for lots of things, you know that.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But the letters to minor fucking newsreaders and
because he found out things what he thought he'd found. See, I've tried to explain it to you from the very beginning. You had good David, bad David, Nutty David.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when Nutty David didn't know whether he was on that side of the fence or that, or he didn't know whether he was on foot or a fucking horseback. Do you see what I mean? That's when you got the dark period. And remember, with David, he went through a terrible, terrible time because of Sandy. You do know that, don't you? She was the love of his life. Right? He couldn't bear to talk about her and those kids, you know. And I said to him, David, I'll find them for you. And he said, no, it was good then, but bad. And I don't know whether he'd still been here if he had. Right? And that the bad part of David only really started on that last sentence. Think about it. You know, he swam in and out. Before that, you weren't married on when you got out, was you?
No.
Right, if you think about it. And the nasty bits, if you go back to when he got out, was it an 8 or 6 years he was doing?
Well, I don't know, I can't remember.
I think it was 6. Could have been 8. Or was it Blomfield who got 8? I don't fucking know. But that's when, you know, the dark bit really, really, really got David.
Yeah. So do you think there was some kind of like breakdown?
I think it was a breakdown completely, and no one had seen that he withdrew into his cell. He never come out of his cell, you know.
Right.
Did you know that?
No.
No. He spent more time in his cell, whatever he was doing, going into himself and meditating and all that bollocks, instead of... All I can say is he never had a Danny in there who would have come along and said, oh yeah, let's go talk a bit of treason, you know what I mean? David was always happy if he was talking about not the past or what you could do or what we could have done, but there was always that barrier of if only I'd not have done that. And he couldn't bear when I used to say to him, it's your own fault, David, you never fucking listened. I told you not to go and do it. And if you was going to do it, I told you how to do it. And you should have known better. And he couldn't stand it. That's the only time I see a change in David with me.
Yeah.
You know. What can I say? You know. And then it was always someone else, you know, the fucking Terry Wogan, Jimmy, what's his name? But he was right about most of them.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, who was that fucking priest he had to go about?
Oh, I don't know about the priest.
Right?
I don't know about
Fuck me. He didn't stop.
Yeah.
But there was nice sides of David. Did you get the letters to that actor?
Oh, David Niven, yeah.
Right? Very nice.
Yeah, and oddly, I met up with Tom Foote, which is Paul Foote's son, who did the... Because I contacted Private Eye about, because that's where Paul Foote worked originally, and any information about Clenzo, and then Tom Foote got in touch with me. And it's interesting because there's obviously some point where David must have really got on Paul Foote's nerves, because he sent a letter saying, I totally disagree with what you're saying, and if you send me more stuff, I'm going to call the police. And I'm even more horrified because apparently I helped you out in the past, you know. So it was interesting meeting his son, because his son's really interested in all this. You know, but it's weird that he obviously dug away at that as well, you know.
See, David, I always said to David, if you wasn't a thief, you could have been a lecturer at any university on life. And his saying was, right, you got to know the knowledge of evil to understand the knowledge of good. Did you know that?
No.
If you don't know about evil, then you're talking all bollocks. You've got to know about that to understand what good is.
Mm.
You know, but as I say, you know, I can only speak good of David.
Yeah. No, it's been really helpful. Thanks. But it's nice to just hear nice stories about it. You know.
I should really write loads of them down.
You should, yeah.
Did you hear about when he swam the pond?
No. Was this for the cat?
I wasn't there, but I'd fucking cry with laughter. He's with Peter Davis, and they're doing a country house, and it comes on top, right? And they're all fucking running around, and they get to this lake and whatever else it was, and Peter said, we've got to swim that. I can swim that. It's fucking January. Fucking swim it. What are you fucking talking about? He said, well, if you don't, you're nicked. So there's David, in he goes, and he said, all I got was quack, 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 all these fucking ducks, and I'm striking out, and eventually I'm fucking got hypothermia, but I've got to keep going. So, oh, you haven't heard it? So across the pond they go, and they're chugging back, and he said, I found a fucking jumper in some old shed or something, and I've got my clothes off. He said, and I've got my legs through the fucking jumper, so they're like leggings, and I've got it up here and holding it up because it's an enormous jumper. He said, you don't know how I love that fucking jumper. He said, I was freezing he said, it took 3 weeks to look for my bollocks, he said. And when the way you told it, I absolutely cried with laughter.
They got away with it though.
Do you hear about what time it come on top? I wasn't there. So David's jumped in the ditch, and there's this geezer roaring up and down, and he's got his fucking shotgun. David's going, fuck that. He said, I'll wait until he roars off up the road and I'll be off. Oh, yeah. Oh, some really, really funny bits and pieces.
Kaz told me that this scam, it's such a brilliant scam, and David had never told me that that he burgled Penthouse offices, the magazine.
True. Oh, don't you know about it?
I didn't know that,
And they was going to get the Rolodex.
Yeah.
Right, but it wasn't there.
Oh, really?
Or something, or it was there, but it wasn't what they thought.
Yeah.
And they come away with all the fucking dodos and fuck knows what. Yeah. That was only in Fulham.
Yes.
Yeah. I had something else on my mind to tell you then. It's like he used to cry with laughter. David never went on this one. He should have, but he was doing something else. Windles asked us to go and get a table. Right, I don't know how, but a big country house somewhere. They said they're not in, and I'm not joking. 24 chairs to this table, fucking enormous table.
Wow.
Anyway, I had it apart in no time, and on the motor, and I said to Peter, I said, fuck me, we've got loads of room on that van. I said, we'll have that sideboard. So on the sideboard it went, and I said, that rug's got to go, big Chinese rug. Well, you've never fucking, the weight was absolute. We got it on eventually, and I went to Windles. I think he was giving us 8 or 9 grand for the table and chairs. And I said, fuck me, Windles, that fucking cabinet on the side, the serving thing, was beautiful. He said, I know, if you'd have had that, I'd give you another 5 grand for that. And I said, and that fucking carpet on the floor, he said, that carpet, he said, you would have got another 10 grand off of me. I said, that's fucking handy, isn't it? So I've got both of them, right? So I think it was nearly 25 grand he had to ante up. Yeah. And David roared with laughter. But the point what I'd done is I took the geezer's wax jacket, right, and his walking stick and all sorts of things, these Wellingtons, right, and I phoned him up. You couldn't do it today. And I went, I've just got to tell you, that table and chairs are fucking beautiful. I said, I'm just having my breakfast. And then I'm going to go for a walk with my wax jacket and my hunter boots and that. And he screamed down the phone, he went, you fucking bastard, you cunt. Can you imagine this real top? And you could feel the fucking veins in his neck. And David, right, because Windles found out, because he had someone straightening the house, he said, you've never, he said, why did you do that? Because he told David about it, right? And David said, well, it's just one of those things. He said, I would have done it if I'd have thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Windles said, oh, there was just murders about it. You're not doing this, are you?
I've recorded it, but don't worry, I won't.
Yeah, fuck that, because his family will remember it. Yeah.
So do you miss those days, or?
Listen, it's never, ever about the money. You do know that, don't you?
Yeah.
No, you don't, do you?
No, but I do, because it has to be about something else.
No.
Because it's not just yeah.
The money comes into it,
Yeah.
but it's not the money.
Yeah, it's a thrill.
You do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Can you imagine, right? There's David and I sitting in the dark, and we're watching the fella. He's come in, right, from the office, and we're seeing him sit down. We've seen her put the kids to bed, or the nanny, or whoever the fucking hell it was, and he's sitting down having his evening meal, 8:30 at night. Yeah, and we know where their bedroom is because we've seen him go up there, change, right, and now, right, we're up the ladder, right, or David would be up the ladder, in there, put the wedge underneath the door, and we've had her jewellery box, and we're out and away. Yeah, and can you imagine? It's the actual. Look at him. Don't know. He's going to fucking, get it right up him in a minute.
Right.
Right. Or whatever we said. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't purely monetary.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. He was lowered down, right, off of 18 floors on a rope. You don't? They couldn't get into the cripple's place. The cripple, I shouldn't say that. It's not PC, is it?
Not very much, no.
For his coin collection.
Right.
Right. It was fucking done up like fucking Fort Knox. It was. And they lowered him on a rope from the fucking roof from the 18th right to the 17th or whatever it was, 3 floors down, I think it was, and he's gone in there and he's had him for all his coins. Can you imagine? He's got a door on there what's cost like fucking £5,000 with as many locks on it as you could. It was impossible to get in.
Yeah.
Right? But he's forgot David's going to come down on the rope. Got a fucking rope tied round his. Now, you've never heard that?
No, never heard that story.
No, see?
He told me one. I wonder if you remember it, or you might have even been there. They said they were going to blow a safe somewhere, and it was in Westminster, because I remember him talking about it being in Westminster, and he said that he said they got some safe guy, and he was piling up the gelignite on this safe, and they were sort of looking at each other thinking,
That was me.
right, they're thinking, does he know what he's doing?
It wasn't Westminster.
No?
No, that was C&T's, that was, and that was a fella called Jonah.
Right.
And he said, you know, I could fucking stand on this safe. And it just goes, yeah, right. And imagine a building shaped like that, yeah. And when you open this door, the safe was there, and the corridor run, and these were all offices.
Right.
Yeah. And he's fucking jamming up. Fuck this, you know what I mean about he's gonna fucking stand on it. Well, we was right up there, right, you know, under the fucking desk, right. Well, the safe door come flying up the fucking hallway and embedded. There wasn't a pane of glass left in the fucking gaff. No, but honestly, right, everything in it was rat shit, right, yeah. The bang was like about, I said to Jonah, you'd been okay fucking, right, you'd have been halfway to fucking heaven by now, yeah.
Brilliant. I think, David, the way you described it was that just before it went off, you could hear someone beating an egg in another flat. He said it was that quiet that.
Fuck, Jonah, and he was another one, Aldridge, right. Aldridge, David said you shouldn't let people fucking know, you know, about, you know, gelignite and fucking all that, Jim. Oh, he said, no, this geezer, he said, where that's concerned, he said, I'm fucking telling you, this guy will never fucking let anybody on. And he took us across, we cut across there, Fulham Palace Road, the cemetery, right, and up come this stone, and he said, I told you, you would never fucking tell anybody, and he had his gear there. Yeah, Jimmy Aldridge. And he was the one when I said about Brian, the Apache, right, I said he's a wrong un. He said, no, he was the one who helped fucking Bigsy out of Wandsworth. I said, I'm fucking telling you, the police will be round my house. He is definitely a fucking wrong un. Right? And sure as God made little fucking apples, right, he did. And he met Aldridge over in Vauxhall, by the Vauxhall car park there. Jim said, I'll meet you over there, right? So I can see you're not going to... He said, no, I wouldn't do it to you, Jim. And Jim come out and fucking put a 6-inch knife right up his arse.
Jesus.
Yeah, bastard.
Jesus. What did that... So was it easy to tell then if someone was...
Well, yeah, you get a sixth sense.
Yeah.
Because I stood in the assizes, right, when I said you can't trust him, and you couldn't, and no one would believe it, right, and Bernard and David, right, had someone straightened in a hospital, and this consultant said I'd got a bad neck and back, right, and wrote me off, yeah, completely, and I was on this and that. All bollocks, I think, for 200 quid, but 200 quid a long time ago.
Yeah, a lot of money.
You could go on a fucking good holiday for it then, you know what I mean? So I've gone into court at Salisbury Assizes, like that with a stick. Got down. And he said, "Are you comfortable enough?" The judge. I said, "Well, I have had all my painkillers today, sir, and if I do need any more, if I could have a glass of water." He said, "Get that man a glass of water." Right? And he said, "I don't think this trial can go ahead." And that's when the prosecutor got up and said, "We've got a perfectly good hospital at whatever prison it is down there." He said, "Why would I want to send this man to prison? Has he shown up to go for trial?" He said, "Well, yes, sir, your worship or your lordship or whatever it was." And he said, "I've got a proper letter from his consultant and everything, what this man's suffering with. He come off a ladder at work, right? So why would I want to send him to prison if he's turned up in good faith and in pain, right? But no, sit down, right?" He said, "What we'll do," he said, "you, Mr. Papier, you can go, right, and I will deal with Brian, can't think of his fucking name, we called him the Apache." He said, "I'll deal with you, right? I know you've pleaded guilty." He said, "You'll take 4 years." And he was helping the old Bill, right? They never got a chance to fucking... Right, so off I go, yeah, and you know we had, what was his name? Bruce Morgan.
Right.
He was a lawyer.
Right, I've not heard of him.
Lickfield, Wiley and Powell. Bruce Morgan, he was a lawyer, top lawyer, and he looked after David, me, all the rascals. He had like a fucking Austin 7, and in no time he had a fucking Bentley.
What was the first name of the practice?
Was it Lickfield, Wiley and Powell?
Lickfield.
I bet Carol will remember it. And he said, "I know someone who knows everybody down there." When I strung it right out, he said, "I've got Tansy who knows," right? And we got a judge who Tansy went to public school with.
This is The Rock.
What?
This is The Rock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Rock Tansy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
No, I don't mean to interrupt you, but David mentions him.
Oh. So we go in, right, and he said, "What I've got to actually say to you, before this trial starts, I'm going to give you half an hour to think about it. If you say my officers down here are corrupt, or anything like that, yeah, it will go very, very badly for you." So out we go. And Aldridge, he's told Tansy to tell me, right, that we've got to plead guilty. We're not going to prison, but we've got to plead guilty. I'm allowed to go and see Aldridge, Jimmy Aldridge. And I said, "Jim, you won't believe this, but this is the deal. We've got to plead." He said, "Fucking plead guilty. I'm already in the fucking shovel." I said, "You've got to plead guilty." So, and then we're off. A deal's been done. So Aldridge is a real fucking handful. So I said, "Don't start. He's going to verbal you up and all the fucking rest of it, this judge, I've been told. And he said, and you, Mr. Aldridge, he said, you are an habitual, this, that, and everything. You're absolutely rotten to the core. You wanted to hear him say you're a fucking terrible, terrible person. And he said, you will, right? And Aldridge said, right, I'm going to fucking kill you. And he said, and you will have a 2-year suspended sentence. Well, Aldridge went like that. Well, he fucking started on me. And I thought, well, what he didn't get, he's going to fucking give to me. And I got a 2-year suspended. And Harrison, who was going to help the old Bill, got a 4 stretch. Rock Tansey, I forgot about him. Rock Tansey. But Morgan, asked Kaz.
Yeah.
He had a fuck all car and wound up with a Bentley. And he said to David and I, he said, David, you won't, I know where you know where I live. You won't come and fucking do me while I'm not there, will you? Yeah.
I went to the Bailey recently just to view, and one of the things I just thought was just how oppressive it is, the courtroom. How there's no light.
But you don't see it.
No?
You don't see it. Your brain is sharpening right up for all the questions. Because for every question they give you, Rock Tansey give you 3 answers. He will say, did you? Right? And your answer is, it could have been, it might have been,
Yeah.
right? You don't deviate.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how he won most of his cases. Morgan, they made him a supplementary magistrate.
Right.
To get him away because he got so many people off.
Huh.
Yeah, Rock Tansey. Forgot about him.
There's a letter and David's talking about the Rock, and it's about those watches that he got off on, and he said that he first met him and he said to him, right, here's 500 quid, and Rock Tansey said, just looked at him and said, well, I had more money when I was a child than you're ever going to have in your entire life. Don't waste your time giving me money. Go and give it to someone who needs it, your wife. And David was, just spellbound by it. Obviously.
He was a kickster, though.
Really?
Tell us some fucking stories. No, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. They all are. They all are, honestly.
Yeah.
They all are. Morgan didn't have money, but he knew Tansey well and all the rest of it. Morgan fucking we sent loads of people to him, thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. His card, right, with his phone number on it, you give to the policeman who's got you in the nick, and you'd say, and on it, my client has nothing to say to you. If you question him, right, I will question your ethics. And when he walked in, right, they all used to go, oh, fuck it, him. Yeah. Ask Carol.
Yeah, I will do. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Nice fella. What do you think of those little cars what you got?
Oh, the Skoda? Yeah, it's good. I'm a cyclist, so cars aren't really my thing. And then we had to get a new car. I only learned to drive 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know. So who drove it before?
Yeah, and the little Mazda we took to France camping, and I think we left some of it there. We were going up hills and stuff. It never really recovered.
Was that your dad's old?
Yeah, it was Dad's one. He just gave it. So we suddenly had to buy a new car, and you're just like, if you don't know anything about cars. So I wanted the Skoda because they sponsored the Tour, the Tour de France, and that was they're about 17 grand it's pretty cheap for a car these days. What have you got?
I've got an Audi.
Oh, they're lovely cars. Yeah. Which one you got?
The A4. I think that's my fourth one. I've had the A5, an A4, an A3. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're lovely cars. I did some because I had no idea of how expensive cars were, and I did some work for an ad agency for Audi, and did some ads and then just looked at the price. I just suddenly completely dumped. You can pay 50 grand for a fucking A4.
Yeah.
It's just
One of the A8, not the A8, the Q.
oh right, yeah.
Right, that's about 70 grand.
Jesus.
And the Audi 8.
Yeah.
Right.
The R8,
R8
the quick one, yeah.
is 130,000.
Yeah.
I have actually driven one of those.
Yeah. What are they like? They're nice.
Well, I went on the test drive. I know the fella down there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Took it up the motorway. It's very nice.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah.
I like Audi though. I really like the. We were thinking about buying an A3, and then and they were really nice. The people.
No boot on them, no.
Yeah, that's the thing. We
That's
use
it.
We use it twice a year for camping.
Fucking camping. Oh, fuck it. I've been once, and it was the most miserable fucking